My name is Susan, and I'm 90 years old. And I need to tell you something I wish someone had told me when I still had time to change it. I spent most of my life waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right version of myself to finally show up. And now I sit in this chair by the window, watching the birds come and go from the feeder Michael put up for me 30 years ago, and I understand something I couldn't have understood then. The right time was always right now. It was always just now, and I kept missing it. I grew up in a small house in rural Ohio, the second of 4 children. My father worked at a mill, and my mother kept everything together with the kind of quiet strength that women of her generation just seemed to carry in their bones. We didn't have much, but we had enough. And somewhere in that childhood I developed a belief that the good things in life required waiting. You waited for Christmas. You waited for summer. You waited until you were older, until you were ready, until things settled down. Patience was treated like a virtue, almost a spiritual practice, and I absorbed that lesson so completely that it became the operating system of my entire life. When I was 22, I wanted to move to New York. I had a friend, Patricia, who had already gone there, and she wrote me letters about her little apartment in Brooklyn, about the energy of the city, about how alive she felt. I read those letters over and over at the kitchen table in the house I shared with 2 other girls from the secretarial pool where I worked. I wanted to go so badly I could feel it like a physical ache in my chest. But I told myself I wasn't ready. I didn't have enough money saved. I didn't know enough people. I'd go when I had a firmer foundation, when things felt more certain. I waited for the right time, and the right time never came. Patricia eventually moved back, married a man from Cincinnati, and we drifted apart the way people do when the shared dream disappears. I never moved to New York. I've never even visited. I want to stop here for a moment because I'm not telling you this so you'll feel sorry for me. I'm telling you because I know something now that I couldn't see then. The waiting wasn't really about money or circumstances. It was about fear wearing the costume of practicality. It looked so reasonable from the inside. It sounded like wisdom. It felt like responsibility, but it was fear, plain and simple, and fear is very good at disguising itself as patience. I met Michael when I was 26. He was working as an engineer, and he had this way of listening to you that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We fell in love quickly and easily, the way you sometimes do when you're young and your heart hasn't yet built all its walls. We got married the following spring in a small ceremony at my parents' church, and I remember standing at that altar thinking, now things will begin, as if marriage were a starting gun, as if my life had been in rehearsal, and this was finally the opening night. But the waiting didn't stop. It just found new things to wait for. We'd travel when we had more money. We'd spend more time together when work slowed down. We'd have long conversations, real ones, deep ones, when we weren't so tired. We'd go to Italy, which Michael had always dreamed of, when the kids were older, when we'd saved more, when the timing was better. Michael used to clip articles about Tuscany from travel magazines and tuck them into a folder he kept in his desk drawer. I found that folder after he passed. It was thick with 20 years of clippings. We never went. Michael died at 78, a stroke, very sudden, very quiet. He was sitting in his chair, the one right across from mine, and then he wasn't in the world anymore. And in the weeks after he died, as I sat in this house surrounded by the accumulated evidence of a long shared life, what haunted me wasn't the things we had done. It was the folder in the desk drawer. It was all the things we had agreed to do later, when the time was right, when things lined up, when life gave us a cleaner window to climb through. We had a good marriage. I want to be clear about that. We loved each other, genuinely and consistently, through all of it. But love doesn't protect you from the particular grief of things left undone. And that grief, I discovered, is a very specific kind of pain. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It comes quietly, usually in the mornings, and it sits with you over your coffee and asks you nothing. which is somehow the most unbearable part. My daughter called me recently. She lives in Portland now, and she was telling me about a painting class she had been meaning to take for years. She kept saying she just needed to find the right time, maybe in the spring, maybe once things at work settled down. And I found myself getting very still on the phone because I recognized it. I recognized the exact shape of that thinking, the familiar architecture of it, the way it feels so sensible and temporary when really it is neither. I told her, "You have to go now. Not next month, not when work slows down. Now. Go tomorrow." She signed up the next day. She called me after her first class, and she was laughing, genuinely laughing, and she said, "Mom, I don't know why I waited so long." And I didn't say what I was thinking, which was that I did know. I knew exactly why. I had spent my entire life doing the same thing. I'm not here to tell you that I regret everything, because I don't. My children are my great joy. My years with Michael, even the ordinary ones, even the tired evenings in front of the television, I cherish all of them. The ordinary days turn out to be the remarkable ones once enough time has passed. You understand that very late, unfortunately, but there is a difference between accepting your life as it was and pretending you couldn't have lived it more fully. Both things can be true at the same time. I accept my life, and I also wish I had moved through it with more courage. Here's what I know at 90 that I could not fully grasp at 30 or 40 or even 60. The circumstances will never be perfect. The timing will never align the way you imagine it needs to. There will always be a reason to wait, always a practical concern, always a version of next month or next year that seems more suitable. But life does not wait for you to feel ready. It just keeps moving, quietly and steadily. And one day you look up, and the folder in the drawer is full of clippings, and your husband is gone, and the window you were waiting to climb through is closed. Not slammed shut, not dramatically sealed, just quietly, gently closed, the way most important things end. If I could go back and speak to my younger self, I wouldn't give her a list of instructions. I'd just sit with her and I'd say, "The fear is lying to you." The voice that tells you to wait, to be more prepared, to accumulate more certainty before you act, that voice is not your wisdom. It's your fear, and it will dress up as wisdom your entire life if you let it. And it will steal from you so quietly that you won't notice until the stealing is already done. I'm 90 years old, and I'm not telling you this from a place of bitterness. Truly, I'm not. I'm telling you this from a place of clarity, the kind that only comes when you've lived long enough to see the whole shape of things. You are sitting right now in the middle of your life, and you probably don't feel like you're waiting, but if you're honest with yourself, if you sit quietly for a moment and listen, you'll find it. The trip you keep putting off, the person you keep meaning to call, the thing you've always wanted to make or build or try, the conversation you've been postponing for a more comfortable moment, it's there. I know it is because it's always there for all of us. And all I'm asking is that you hear this old woman by her window and take it seriously when I tell you that later is not a place. It is not somewhere you can get to. There is only now and now and now again, and every single one of those nows is the right time. Go. Whatever it is, please go.